Hi, I'm Sarah Salter. Today we're going to be talking about behavior management and social skills. Part 1. So what is the problem? Today it's common for students who have social, emotional, or behavior challenges to, to result in disciplinary actions and suspension. This is because teachers may not know how to handle the situation. Evidence backing this up is that disciplinary actions and suspension can be used to reinforce problem behavior. This is because students usually display problem behavior as a reflection of not wanting to be at school. Educators believe that they need more education on how to manage challenging behavior, and students do better academically when behavior and social emotional skills are improved. Positive behavior supports. So, the Office of Special Education's Technical Assistant and Positive Behavioral Supports define PBS as an application of behaviorally based systems approach to enhance the capacity of schools, families, and communities to design effective environments that improve the link between research-validated practices and the environment in which teaching and learning occurs. Research on PBS. So positive behavior support promotes flexibility and respects scientific practices. It values gained information from research methods, including naturalistic observations and case studies, and is an invaluable systematic data source used to guide and evaluate intervention. The three-tier model for positive behavior support. Down in the green, on the right, we are focusing on the behavioral instruction side, and the green on the bottom is about 80% of students. This is all students are included in the green chart. As we move up, only some students are in the yellow. This is about 15% of students, and at the top is only very few of the students are in these assessment-based and intense durable procedure interventions. Functional behavior assessment. The purpose is to determine why problem behavior is occurring and to promote prevention and intervention efforts so we can apply it to increase effectiveness and efficiency. Components of these are setting events, triggering, and maintaining consequences. So what happens to make this problem behavior occur? What place or when does it usually occur? And how are we going to encourage students to display positive behavior? So the FBA process is first on the far left or over here in this first box. We're going to write the student's name and their information. We're going to then talk about the behavior. We're going to talk about when the behavior occurs, and then going on to the next page, we're going to talk about where the behavior is most likely to occur, and then who it's most likely to occur around, and then at the bottom we're going to talk about previous attempts to fix the behavior. On the last page is the functional behavior. So we're going to review when it happens, the student does what, and in order to fix it, we want to do what. And then at the bottom, we want to talk about replacement behavior. So rather than displaying this negative behavior, I want the student to do what? What's a realistic goal for the student? So common functions of problem behavior. One is to receive attention or get a reaction. Two is to get something tangible. So if a student has obsessive interests or needs, they're going to do anything to get them. Three is to receive power or control. So if a student feels like they are being controlled, they're going to do anything they can to gain that control. Four is to communicate feelings, wants, and needs. So if a student has a language or speech barrier, oftentimes they'll act out to show you what they want, need, or feel. As a result of lack of understanding. So if a student doesn't know what he or she feels himself, or what his peers are feeling or his teacher is feeling, they're often gonna act out. And 6 is to escape or avoid something. So misbehavior can occur if a student doesn't want to do something, if they don't feel like they fit in to a certain goal or a certain group. So the bottom line of an FBA is it's important to understand the cause of misbehavior and to consider the behavior and why it's happening. This will lead to effective and efficient response and interventions which improve behavior. So model for intervention. So after we know why the behavior is occurring and what the problem behavior is, it's important to create an intervention that will help students meet the function in a more socially acceptable way. So first we're going to do some instruction. So we're going to explain what's supposed to happen, how are we supposed to act, how are we going to prevent this problem behavior from occurring, what types of positive reinforcements can we instill, and then we want to do all these 3 things before we can get down to number 4, but if we have to, then we do undesirable consequences. What is going to really encourage the student in an undesirable way to go back to displaying the positive behaviors. So the conclusion for part 1 is it is important to remember that children who display misbehavior most likely have an underlying reason to why misbehavior is occurring. And once we find the underlying problem, it's important to help child learn about and to express themselves before this behavior occurs. Part 2, lesson planning. So I'm going to talk about a lesson geared toward kindergarten in the social development domain, and it's for the bottom tier of students like we talked about earlier, in the green tier for the 80% of students. And then we're going to talk about this, we're going to use character count standards. So the character count standards I use were positive relationships and effective communication. Anticipatory set. Examples of how this can negatively affect others are students should be polite and not speak out of turn, and students should listen and do what they need to support their peers and friends when it is their turn. So anticipatory set. We're going to sing a song together. So if you're friendly and you know it, clap your hands. So that's what we're going to do to hook the student's attention. The objective. So the learning objective. So after learning how to maintain positive relationships and handle oneself in the hard situations, it is in a non-assertive way, non-assertive, friendly way, students should be able to apply this to real life situations. So key terms we're going to use in this, we're going to learn in this lesson are going to be friendly, positive, relationships, and maintain. So what we're talking about maintaining positive relationships in a friendly way. So I think the 2 most valuable vocabulary words would be, in this case for kindergartens, would be maintain and positive. We need to talk about what it means to be positive and what does maintain mean to hold on to these friendships. So modeling. So in this video, so we're going to go watch this video of me modeling friendly behavior through reading a book. Lacey Walker, Non-Stop Talker by Christy-Ann Jones, illustrated by Richard Watson. Lacey Walker was quite a little talker. She liked to talk and talk and talk. Lacey, please stop talking and eat your lunch, chided her mom. Lacey, less talking and more listening, scolded her teacher. Lacey, please quit talking. I can't hear my movie, shouted her brother. Lacey, stop talking and brush your teeth, sighed her dad. Nothing could quiet little Lacey. She talked and talked and talked. But on one gloomy Monday morning, all that talking caught up with her. Lacey Walker lost her voice. She tried to whisper, she tried to shout, she tried to sing, but nothing happened. Lacey moped through breakfast. However, it didn't take her nearly as long to eat since she couldn't talk. Lacey even had time to finish her homework. I'm really on a roll this morning, she thought. Lacey moped on her walk to school. However, Lacey realized her friend Nadine told great jokes and was really funny. Odd that I never noticed that before, Lacey thought. Lacey moped all day at school. However, she finished all of her homework and got a gold star for listening. I've never gotten a gold star before, she thought. That night, Lacey wasn't quite so mopey. She grabbed a snack and watched the monster movie with her brother. He was right, she thought. This movie is awesome. And when her dad came upstairs, Lacey was ready for bed. Her teeth were brushed, her pajamas were on, and she was lying quietly in bed. They even had time to read 2 extra books. The next morning, Lacey woke up feeling great. Not only could she talk again, but she could whisper. She could shout. She could sing. This is the best day ever, Lacey declared. Lacey raced downstairs, talking the entire way. Oh my goodness, I have so much to say, Lacey said. Nadine is hilarious. Gold stars are the best. I like monster movies. But first I'm going to eat my breakfast, Lacey said with a smile. And Lacey quietly ate her breakfast. Her family talked, and she listened. Lacey Walker still liked to talk, and talk, and talk. But modeling through reading a book, this is a good way to grasp the attention of your students. And after the book, you can discuss what were the social aspects of positive behavior, and how is Lacey at first not being a good friend and then being a good friend. What did she do to better her friendship and relationships with her parents, with her peers, with her teacher? So guided practice. So for our guided practice, here is the directions. It's a circle. Circle the picture that shows good friendship and positive relationship skills, and put an X through the other ones. So they would go through and look at the boy spitting. That's not good. So they would cross it out. And then at the end, we would discuss why we're crossing these things out, why we're circling them. Why is it good to help your friend sweep, or why is it good to share a book? Why is it good to raise your hand in class? Before we do this, we would talk about what we're going to do on the worksheet, how we're going to know what is right from wrong, how are we going to know what's positive behavior, what will help you maintain positive and friendly relationships. Check for understanding. So check for understanding. How will you check? How will you know that the students know these things? So we are going to read scenarios and discuss bad friendship relationships. So if you say something like, 2 friends are playing and the other steals a toy. Why is this bad? Why is the one student going to get upset that they don't have their toy? Yes, it's good to share, but can we just take things? So we can talk about sharing, we can talk about giving, we can talk about not taking things from others. Why is that bad? This will really help build positive relationships, and we can talk about things like that. So independent practice. So our independent practice for this type of activity would be that students will practice social skills in everyday life. This is going to be something that as a teacher you have to keep track of separately. Okay, so my conclusion. So what have I learned? So assessments. Assessments up. That's how you form a good lesson plan. So what's my assessment going to be? What do I want to know if the child can do? So alignment of a lesson is very important, making sure your goals, your rationales, your assessments all meet up. How are you going to get to the bottom line? How to interpret character count standards, what and how PBS and FBA are for, and how to use them successfully, and how to use engage a lesson plan using a multi-tiered system of support.